who are the strongest characters in each One Piece arc? I mean, One Piece has had some incredible arcs throughout the years, and in each of these arcs, not only new and overpowered characters were introduced, but our current protagonists were receiving further power-ups as well. But having said that, which characters were the strongest ones in each arc? Well, today, we'll explain as well as rank the top 3 strongest characters of each One Piece arc. And if you think this is an easy task, well, give me your top 3 strongest characters in Marineford. I'll wait. Which one are you leaving out? Garp, Whitebeard, Shanks, Akainu, Mihawk? And that's not even the full list. So, well, just give it a few minutes, and we'll get there as well. Okay, so from where should we start? Obviously, the very beginning of the first arc of the show, Romance Dawn, where the One Piece story officially begins. We are introduced to a silly and goofy character, having barely not drowned in the sea. Koby found Luffy's barrel and brought it inside Alvida's ship, without him actually knowing that there was someone inside that barrel that he has just picked up. So, which 3 are the strongest characters in this arc? Well, to be honest, there are not many options to choose from. At number 3, we'll just have to go with Koby, since everyone else in that arc is just random nobodies. Yeah, Koby is pretty weak, I know, but well, it is what it is. At number 2, we have Alvida. Physically, she's strong enough to cause significant damage with her weapon and commanded a crew that feared her. However, that was pretty much it. Nothing too special, and definitely nothing that the character at the number 1 spot could not handle. And who is at number 1? Obviously, Luffy. You see, at this point, Luffy's power largely came from the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which, as we all know, made his body rubbery, granting him extreme elasticity, durability, and resistance to blunt attacks. With his Devil Fruit, we saw him easily overpowering Alvida and rescuing Koby from her tyrannical rule. This was only the first arc, and we still have 30 arcs left to analyze. And as we know in One Piece, each arc gets crazier and crazier. And by the end of the video, we'll try predicting the strongest characters of even future arcs in One Piece. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. The next arc in line is once again Romance Dawn, but this time we will discuss about the flashbacks shown during this arc. If we had to name the top 3 strongest characters here, then these would follow as such. Number 3, Lucky Roo. Yep, even though Ben Beckman was the vice captain, Lucky Roo was the one who displayed his strength during this flashback. I mean, his speed to take care of the mountain bandit was just too much for any side character to handle. At number 2, we have Shanks. Naturally, since he is the captain of the crew, he's obviously stronger than Lucky Roo. Plus, he did show us an early glimpse of Conqueror's Haki against the Sea King in order to save Luffy, even though we were not really aware of it at the time. And finally, number 1, we obviously have Gold D. Roger that was shown during his execution. Yeah, he was indeed weakened, but even like that, it's not as if they managed to restrain and capture him. Quite the opposite. He just willingly surrendered, and I'm pretty sure he could escape from the Marines anytime he wanted if that was actually his goal. I mean, even though he was physically restrained and not in combat during his execution, Roger's strength and reputation were legendary, and he was widely known as the man who conquered the Grand Line and found the fabled treasure, the One Piece. The man who obtained everything there was to obtain in life: wealth, fame, and power. The next arc in line is Orange Town arc. The arc begins with Luffy and Zoro out at sea, lost and starving due to the fact that neither of them have any sense of direction. After a series of comical events, the two of them end up at Orange Town, an island under siege by the clown pirate Buggy and his crew. Naturally, the Buggy pirates clash with the Straw Hat pirates, but which 3 characters are the strongest in this arc? Well, at number 3, I have Zoro, above characters like Moji and Kabaji. For number 2, I have Buggy the Clown. Buggy's Bara Bara no Mi allowed him to split his body into separate parts and control them independently. This made him immune to slashing attacks, as his body parts could detach and avoid damage. For example, Zoro's sword attacks, which normally would be fatal, were ineffective against Buggy because of this ability. Naturally, because of that, Buggy is placed higher than Zoro. And for number 1, we naturally have the one that actually defeated Buggy with this truly deadly move on Buggy's, well, you know, more sensitive areas. On to one of the most underappreciated arcs, Syrup Village arc. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami arrive at Syrup Village looking for a ship, where they meet Usopp, the local village liar. After they learn of the secret plot against Usopp's friend Kaya, they decide they have no other choice but to help him defeat Captain Kuro in order to save her. But which characters were the strongest in this arc? Well, for starters, at number 3, I would have to place either Zoro or Django. Django, while not the strongest villain Luffy and the Straw Hats faced at this time, he did have some unique abilities that made him a dangerous and tricky opponent. Django's main strength came from his ability to hypnotize others using his circular hypnotic ring. His hypnosis had versatile effects, depending on the suggestion given. For example, he could make people fall asleep, as he did to Usopp's crew, or even enhance their strength, like when he accidentally hypnotized Luffy, making him momentarily stronger. The other option for number 3 is Zoro. Between the two, I kinda lean more towards Zoro, to be honest. For number 2, we obviously have Kuro, who was the main antagonist of this arc. His combination of speed, cunning, and lethal techniques made him a formidable villain, and for sure, one of the strongest and most dangerous foes the Straw Hats had encountered up to that point. But was he stronger than Luffy? Not quite, as Luffy managed to defeat this character as well, making him the number 1 strongest character of this arc. And next is the time for Sanji to join the crew. Baratie EVA arc. Here, the main villain of the arc is Don Krieg, but, well, things are not that straightforward, as Don Krieg is not the only antagonist in this arc. But when it comes to the strongest characters here, how would we rank the top 3? Well, hear me out. At number 3, we have Don Krieg. He was known as the strongest man in the East Blue by reputation, mainly due to his sheer numbers, his strategic mind, and the vast arsenal of weapons at his disposal. He wore a suit of golden, bulletproof armor that was loaded with weapons and offered significant protection. The armor was incredibly durable, making him difficult to damage even for stronger foes. His reliance on his armor and gear made him a dangerous opponent, but I guess even his armor was not strong enough to keep Luffy from absolutely destroying him. Thus, naturally, at number 2, we have Luffy. But who is at number 1 then? Well, this guy is actually miles ahead of everyone else in this arc, and that would be none other than Mihawk. This encounter of Mihawk is like when you play a video game, max all your stats, and then return to level 1 just to flex on the weak side characters. Yeah, that was basically Mihawk in this arc. One of the strongest characters in the series, casually showing up to fight a rookie like Zoro in the weakest sea of One Piece. Moving on to Arlong Park. For this arc, I have Sanji at number 3, as let's not forget that Zoro was basically barely alive here. Sanji was stronger than all of the Fishmen in this arc, other than Arlong, of course, and assuming that the fight takes place in land. For number 2, we have none other than Arlong himself. As a Fishman, Arlong was significantly stronger than most humans, with the ability to easily overpower normal people and even strong fighters. His physical strength was his most dangerous attribute, allowing him to lift, throw, and crush opponents with ease. Plus, Arlong's shark Fishman heritage made him one of the strongest members of his species, amplifying his physical prowess compared to ordinary Fishmen. And for number 1, we have, yet again, Monkey D. Luffy. I mean, come on, Luffy defeated Arlong, so him being placed here is the only right option. Moving on to Lowtown. The Straw Hat Pirates stop at the city where Goldie Roger was born and executed in order to get supplies before heading to the Grand Line. Here, this is the arc, if you recall, that Buggy captures Luffy and is about to execute him. But who intervenes? Dragon. Well, naturally, the top 3 strongest characters in this arc are at number 3, Luffy, while at number 2, we have Smoker. I mean, remember that at this point, Luffy is completely powerless against Logia-type Devil Fruit users, especially when they can use Haki, which Luffy does not have an idea of its existence. And for number 1, again, in a league of his own, Monkey D. Dragon. I mean, Dragon is considered one of the strongest and definitely among the most wanted, if not the most wanted character in all of One Piece. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the number 1 spot is rightfully his. On to the Reverse Mountain arc. The Straw Hat Pirates make their way to Reverse Mountain in order to enter the Grand Line. As they descend the mountain, they come face to face with not only the giant whale Laboon, but also Crocus. So how would we really scale this arc? In my opinion, Luffy is placed at number 3. Strong, but definitely not as strong as 2 other characters we have, which to be honest, I'm not really sure how they should be placed. I mean, the other 2 spots I have in mind are reserved for Laboon and Crocus. Now, for anyone ready to say that Crocus is weak, well, I'd have to stop you right there, because don't forget, Crocus was part of the Roger Pirates, so at the very least, he was way stronger than he led on to be in this arc, even while being an old man. And in my opinion, he was surely way stronger than any Straw Hat at this point. The real question here is whether Crocus was stronger than Laboon or not. Well, since Crocus did not show us his full strength, let's just go ahead and place Crocus at number 2 and Laboon at number 1 for this arc. Next up, it's Whiskey Peak. You see, in this town, they welcome pirates with open arms and treat them like celebrities. However, things are not as they seem. In the end, the Straw Hats ended up being ambushed by the Baroque Works. But what was the result of that? Zoro, while also being drunk by the way, sliced and defeated every single one of the Baroque Works agents standing in his way. So now, let's see the strongest characters here. At number 3, we have Mr. Five, where his primary strength came from the Bomu Bomu no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allowed him to turn any part of his body into a bomb without suffering any harm from the explosions. But as soon as he was faced against Zoro, well, there was only one winner here. At number 2 in this arc, we have Zoro, while at number 1, we naturally have Luffy again. Moving on to Little Garden. There, the Straw Hats encounter 2 giants, Dory and Broggy, who have been dueling one another on the island for the past century. After befriending the giants, the crew is ambushed anew by the Baroque Works. For me, the way I see it, the top 3 strongest characters of this arc are the following. Sharing the spot of number 3 and number 2 are Dory and Broggy. These giants have literally battled each other for 100 years. And well, you know, they're also giants, which the Straw Hats can't really compare to at this point in terms of strength. But who's placed at number 1 then? None other than Mr. 3. I mean, don't forget, with a single move, he managed to pin down and incapacitate both Broggy and Dory, as well as multiple Straw Hats with like no effort. And it took the combined efforts of multiple Straw Hats in order to break free and defeat him. On to the arc that Luffy finally recruited the position he most wanted. And if you think that position is a doctor, well, no. I'm talking about emergency food. This arc is none other than Drum Island. You see, after Nami falls ill with an unknown disease, the Straw Hat Pirates travel to Drum Island in search of a doctor. There, the crew meets a bizarre talking reindeer named Tony Chopper, who helps them fend off the country's former ruthless king, Wapol. But which three characters are the strongest in this arc? Well, in my opinion, at number 3, we have Kureha. And yeah, before anyone comes at me saying that Kureha is just an old woman, well, I would beg to disagree with that. You see, we know close to nothing about her past. And to be honest, if I had to guess, then my money would be that Kureha used to be a part of a legendary pirate crew like the Rocks Pirates. And well, if that's the case, then even as an old woman, I'm pretty sure she is still incredibly powerful, even if she did not reveal it in this arc. At number 2, I would have to place Wapol as the main antagonist of the arc. With his ability to eat anything in front of him and combine its properties to create something entirely new, that should not be underestimated. And who is number 1? Well, obviously the guy who defeated Wapol, aka Luffy. Remember, in this arc, Luffy not only defeated Wapol, he also took on a full power cannon shot head-on just to protect Chopper's flag. And even after that, he went on to defeat Wapol. Moving on to Alabasta. The Straw Hats finally reach the desert kingdom of Alabasta and begin their race across the land in order to prevent a massive war between the kingdom's royal guards and the rebels. On this arc, we also had the return of Smoker that chased down Luffy, as well as Ace, who arrives to protect his brother. So because of that, this will be the first arc in today's video that Luffy was actually in, but will not be getting a top 3 mention. Why? Because at number 3, we have Smoker, that is arguably stronger than Luffy at this point. Remember, Luffy has no way to counter Logia Devil Fruit users at this point other than countering the actual element in question. Meaning, if the Logia is that of sand, Luffy could use water. Or if the Logia was electricity, Luffy could use rubber that does not conduct electricity. And all that because Luffy cannot yet use Haki. At number 2, I have Ace. That, yeah, we saw he was actually evenly matched against Smoker. But if I had to give a small edge to someone, I guess that would be Ace. And naturally, at number 1, we have Crocodile. Yeah, someone could say that Luffy did defeat him, but to that, I would argue that Luffy lost to Crocodile multiple times, and only won because he had prepared using water as a countermeasure to Crocodile's abilities. In a 1v1 with no prep time, Luffy stands no chance against Crocodile at this stage. Up next, we have the Jaya arc. You see, after the Straw Hat Pirates' log post points them towards the sky, they travel to the island of Jaya and work with Mont Blanc Cricket to determine if there's indeed an island in the sky. While in the pirate-populated port town of Mocktown, Luffy ends up in a conflict with the overconfident Bellamy that asks Luffy, quote, if he knows how to even throw a punch, all before being put to sleep by a single punch from Luffy, of course. So, who are the top 3 strongest characters here? At number 3, we have Zoro. That, well, I think it's fair to say he was stronger than Bellamy at this point. He took all of the Bellamy pirates' attacks because Luffy said so, and survived without any life-threatening injuries. For number 2, I have Monkey D. Luffy. And yeah, he was obviously stronger than Zoro. And at number 1, no, I don't have Bellamy, don't worry. Here, I have Blackbeard. Remember, at this point, Blackbeard is strong enough to defeat Ace on his own, so by extension, he's also significantly stronger than Luffy as well. On to Skypiea, where the Straw Hats learn of its connections to Jaya and Mont Blanc Nolan's tale of a lost city of gold. As the crew embarks in search of treasure, they become entangled in a 3-way war between the native Skypieans, the vengeful Shandians, and the land's cruel, self-proclaimed god, Enel. So, who are the 3 strongest characters here? Well, in my opinion, at number 3, we have Sanji. Yeah, some people could say that Zoro is stronger here, but, well, I thought it was only fair to give this to Sanji since he literally tanked this attack from Enel. At number 2, I have Luffy. And before anyone says wait, didn't Luffy defeat Enel? Yeah, he did. But hear me out. The only reason Luffy pulled this off was because he got lucky and his Devil Fruit was the exact weakness of Enel's. In reality, Enel is numerous times stronger than Luffy, and thus, despite losing against him, he deserves to be placed at number 1. Up next, Long Ring Longland. You see, upon arriving on Long Ring Longland, the Straw Hat Pirates are ambushed by the Foxy Pirates and challenged to a Davy backfight, with the prize being none other than Chopper. Let's see the top 3 strongest characters here. At number 3, I have Zoro. Number 2, Foxy. And number 1, Luffy. I think the only debatable position here is whether I should have Foxy or Zoro higher. But, well, given that Zoro is not at his strongest here, and given that Foxy's Devil Fruit is among the most overpowered in the world of One Piece, no matter if Foxy does not make the most of it, I thought Foxy deserved to be placed higher than Zoro. Having covered Long Ring Longland, let's move on to Water 7 arc. If you don't remember the events of Water 7, let's quickly refresh your memory then. The Straw Hats arrive at the oceanic metropolis of Water 7 to find a shipwright who can repair the Going Merry, as well as potentially join their crew. They soon become targets of the Frankie family, the city's Luffy's underground gang and become involved in all kinds of messy situations with Cypher Pole agents like Rob Lucci that at that time underwent as a spy. So who are the top 3 strongest characters here? Well, in my opinion, all 3 spots here should be given to Cypher Pole agents, since they are all experts in hockey and are excessively trained in all sorts of martial arts and fighting tactics. At number 3, we have Jabra, number 2, Kaku, and number 1, Lucci. This power scaling is evident by the fact that the Monster 3 later fought these 3 in the following way. Sanji fought against Jabra, Zoro fought against Kaku, and Luffy fought against Lucci. So using this, we can conclude that Jabra is number 3, Kaku's number 2, and Lucci is number 1. But after Water 7 arc, we have the most epic arc as of yet, Enies Lobby. The Straw Hats, Soga King, and the Frankie family all arrive at Enies Lobby to rescue Nico Robin and Frankie. Standing in their way, however, are the forces of the world government, including its deadly assassination unit CP9. A massive battle ensues between the two sides when Luffy declares war against the world government. Let's now see the top 3 strongest characters in this arc. At number 3, I have Chopper, that while using Monster Point, he was seen being an absolute monster. He completely destroyed Kumadori, and well, I don't think many people from this arc could actually defeat him in a 1v1. At number 2, I have Lucci, while at number 1, we have Luffy. Yeah, I suppose Lucci seems stronger than Luffy, but at the end of the day, Luffy won. So it's only fair that I placed him higher than Lucci. Next arc in line is Brook's arc, aka the Thriller Bark arc. During the Straw Hats' journey through the Florian Triangle, the crew stumbles upon Brook. Naturally, like any wise man would do, upon seeing a literal speaking skeleton, Luffy's first thought was to ask him to join their crew. But for the top 3 strongest characters here, what do we have? Well, at number 3, I could put Ors, but instead, I think Gecko Moria, that controlled him, would be a better choice. I place Moria above characters like Zoro and Ryuma, since Moria was indeed the main antagonist of this arc. At number 2, I have Luffy, that with his nightmare transformation, he defeated Moria. And before you wonder who could be placed higher than Luffy here, well, remember that nothing happened in this arc? Yeah, nothing happened with Kuma. At this point, Kuma is obviously the strongest, and none of the characters presented stand any chance in front of him. Next arc in line is Sabaody Archipelago. You see, the Straw Hats arrive at the final island of the Grand Line's first half, Sabaody Archipelago. While searching for a means to pass under the Red Line into the New World, they come into conflict with a deadly human trading ring that sells to the world nobles. There, after a series of events, St. Charlos shoots Hachan and starts celebrating. Naturally, Luffy, that was present there and saw everything taking place, gets as furious as it gets. And what does he do? He punches St. Charlos so hard that he sends him back to the manga. Well, truth be told, the outcome of that was not the best, because as a result of Luffy's actions, a buster call was issued, which brought an entire warship filled with Marines, as well as the Vice Admiral Kizaru. So let's see the top 3 strongest characters here. At number 3, I have Kuma, that showed up and saved the Straw Hats from certain annihilation, whereas for places number 2 and 1, I suppose this would be a bit debatable. I will be placing Rayleigh at number 2 and Kizaru at number 1, for the simple reason that Kizaru is actually at his prime, while Rayleigh is now far from his. Moving on to Amazon Lily. After his defeat at the hands of Kuma at the Sabaody Archipelago, Luffy is sent flying and crash lands on Amazon Lily, an island exclusive to women that executes males on sight. So let's now see the strongest characters here. At number 3, I've got Sandersonia, number 2, Luffy, and number 1, Boa Hancock. You see, not only is Hancock a master of all 3 forms of hockey, which Luffy at this point is not, she also has one of the most overpowered devil fruits in all of One Piece, especially when combined with her beauty. The only reason she was not able to turn Luffy into stone is because of Luffy's nature, where he just does not care about women. So when it comes to overall power level, I think Boa is a cut above Luffy at this point. After Amazon Lily, we now get to Impel Down. Meanwhile, Luffy goes through various obstacles in his effort to penetrate Impel Down and help break Ace out. However, what ended up happening instead is that Luffy got absolutely packed by Magellan, with the result being that Ivankov had to step in and administrate certain hormones to Luffy. So let's see the top 3 strongest characters here. At number 3 is Luffy. Number 2, Blackbeard. While at number 1, we have Magellan. You see, Magellan was seen absolutely destroying everyone in this arc, and in my opinion, he's one of the most underrated characters in all of One Piece. And now we reach the point most of you waited for, the Marineford arc, where a bunch of insanely strong characters appear. Garp, Whitebeard, Shanks, Akainu, Mihawk, Aokiji, Kizaru. Which of these characters deserve to be placed in the top 3? And even among those 3, who should be placed at number 2 and who at number 1? Well, hear me out on what I think on all this. At number 1, I will be placing Whitebeard, which leaves us with the positions 2 and 3. For me, even though Aokiji and Kizaru are definitely not weak, Akainu, Garp, Shanks, and Mihawk are a cut above those 2. So with that in mind, how should we rank those 4? Well, you can let us know what you think about this selection in the comments down below. But for me, I think I would do the following. Akainu at number 2, and one of either Shanks or Mihawk at number 3. But which one of those 2? After all, it was repeatedly stated that Shanks and Mihawk are on the same level, so I think it's only fair if I place both tied at number 3 for this one. Would you place one of the 2 in another way? Once again, let us know in the comments down below if that's the case. On to Fishman Island Arc. There, the crew learns the history of Fisher Tiger and the ongoing discrimination between humans and fishmen, while the new Fishman pirates plot to overtake Ryugu Kingdom and make fishmen be recognized as the supreme race. Let's see the top 3 strongest characters here. At number 3, I have Shirahoshi that, yeah, even though she's weak in this arc, we do know that her potential is off the roof. After all, she is indeed one of the ancient weapons. At number 2, I have Hody Jones, under the influence of performance-enhancing drugs. While at number 1, we have Luffy, that defeated Hody Jones. Yeah, I suppose characters like Jinbei and Zoro are indeed left out here, but I think this was, after all, the most fair ranking. Moving on to the next arc, Punk Hazard. You see, upon finally entering the new world, the Straw Hat Pirates immediately receive a distress call from residents of Punk Hazard, who state that a samurai is attacking them. Without hesitation, Luffy sets out to the Blazing Island, with Vice Admiral Smoker hot on his trail. But is Smoker still among the strongest characters in the arc? Not even close, actually, because the power scaling of One Piece has moved far beyond the level where Smoker was considered strong. Here, Smoker is actually stepped on by Virgo, which is actually our choice for number 3. At number 2, we have Law, that quite literally split Virgo in half. And at number 1, we have Luffy. Moving on, we have one of the best arcs in all of One Piece, Dressrosa. Here, the Straw Hats, along with Trafalgar Law, together with Kinemon, Momonosuke, and the captured Caesar Clown, travel there with the goal of taking down the nation's king, Warlord of the Sea, Don Quixote Doflamingo. The top 3 here, in my opinion, are pretty clear to rule. At number 3, we have Doflamingo. But which are the 2 characters stronger than him? Well, one of them is Luffy, right? Well, Luffy is placed at number 2. So who does that make number 1? None other than Fujitora. After all, the guy can summon literal meteorites just for fun. While Luffy fought Fujitora briefly, Fujitora wasn't going all out, and the battle didn't have a decisive conclusion. Fujitora's role was more about testing Luffy than actually defeating him, and even Luffy acknowledged that Fujitora was extremely powerful. Up next, Zoark. You see, after defeating Doflamingo, the Straw Hats, Trafalgar Law, Kinemon, and Kanjuro arrive on Zou in order to reunite with Sanji and the others. However, they discover that Sanji has been swept up in a set of personal and political entanglements, and that Zou has been subjected to a siege by Jack of the Beast Pirates. What are these political entanglements? Well, those would be his arranged marriage to Pudding. But let's see the top 3 strongest characters for now. At number 3, we have either Zoro or Jack, which to be honest is pretty debatable. If I had to give the edge to someone, then I guess this would be Jack. At number 2, I have Luffy. While at number 1, I think you're all forgetting about someone, Zunesha. This creature is hands down by far way stronger than any character participating in the arc. Moving on to Whole Cake Island Arc. Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and the Minx, Peekums, Pedro, and Carrot head to Whole Cake Island, where Big Mom of the 4 Emperors resides. Okay, this arc does indeed feature many and really strong characters. For example, Oven, Jinbei, Cracker, Smoothie, and many others don't even make it to the top 3. So which ones do make the list? At number 3, we have Katakuri. Number 2, Luffy, who managed to defeat him, while at number 1, we have Big Mom. After all, Luffy did not manage to defeat her, but rather escaped her territory after finally managing to retrieve Sanji. The next important arc we have in line is Levely. You see, during this mini arc, we see that the Straw Hats' actions against the Big Mom pirates are revealed to the world. Luffy's group is on its way to Wano country, while the Revolutionary Army prepares for their next move. Meanwhile, royalty across the globe gathers for the Levely, without knowing that a shadow-like figure is pulling the strings of the world. This is, as we know, Imu. Even though not many important fights take place, we did witness some really strong characters here. Because of that, the top 3 strongest characters this arc has are the following. Number 3, Garp. Number 2, Dragon. That, although not confirmed, it is indeed estimated that he's strong stronger than Garp, that is now far from his prime. And number 1, Emu. That, from everything we saw so far, she does seem as among the strongest characters in the One Piece verse. And now, we reach Wano. But before we explain the main storyline of Wano, let's first see the flashback version where the Roger pirates clashed with the Whitebeard pirates, who are the top 3 strongest characters in this arc. At number 3, I have either Rayleigh or Odin. Among the two, I think Rayleigh might be a better choice here. And at number 2, I have Whitebeard. That, well, obviously it was gonna be him. But who's gonna be stronger than Prime Whitebeard? Obviously Kid Buggy. Nah, seriously, Prime Roger being above Whitebeard is only fair. Even though they were considered on the same level, Roger was indeed the Pirate King. So I think the number 1 spot should be his for this arc. And now, the actual Wano arc, where I won't speak a lot about it since it's still fresh in everyone's memories. At number 3, I have Luffy. Being the Sun God? Yeah, he did defeat Kaido, but I do think that we can all agree that Kaido was still the stronger opponent. Like, quite literally, everyone was jumping him for days until they could finally defeat him. Not even to mention that every battle happened while he was still carrying the entire island on his clouds. Luffy might have won, but I'm gonna put Kaido at number 2. Alright then, so who should I put at number 1? Alright, get this, because it gets a bit controversial, but I think I'll be putting down Shanks. Even though we've yet to see Shanks going 100% all out, I think the way he's presented by Oda leaves to imply that Shanks might be among the strongest characters in One Piece, possibly even stronger than Kaido as well. And now, for the final arc of One Piece so far, we have Egghead. Let's see the top 3 strongest characters here. At number 3, I have Nusjiro. Like, quite literally, the Straw Hats were powerless against him, and the only thing they could do when faced with him was try to escape. At number 2, I have Dragon. That made some brief appearances, and we can only imagine that he's probably stronger than the 5 elders individually. And at number 1, I naturally have Emu. Click on this video next, where I'm letting luck decide on the strongest One Piece crew possible. Go on, check it out!